In this video, we're going to be breaking out the crayons and the construction paper, figuratively speaking anyway, because we're going to be using Photoshop to create our custom background image for our Twitter page. Now, don't worry if making your own background image just isn't your cup of tea. Don't sweat it, because we're also going to show you where you can go to get some already made background images. Easy peasy. And as you can see, I've made a few changes to our Twitter page since the last time we met, and I went ahead and created a custom background image, and I changed some of the elements of our Twitter page, such as the color to our sidebar, the sidebar border, and there's a few other changes that we can make, and I'll go over those here in just a little bit. But before we jump into me showing you the Photoshop method of creating our custom background image, I wanted to point out a couple of tools that I find pretty indispensable from time to time when messing with my graphics, and that's these two guys down here. These are add-ons for the Firefox browser, and if you are familiar with Firefox or use Firefox as your browser, then these are just add-ons. This one is called Measure It, and this one is called Colorzilla, and you can just do a search by going into your tools, going to add-ons, go to Get Add-ons, and do a search for Colorzilla, this guy here, and then the other one is Measure It, this guy here. And pretty much just real quick, like what they do is Colorzilla is an eyedropper tool that provides you with, down here at the status bar, provides you with the RGB, and the hexadecimal code for the color of your choosing. Or why is this needed? Well, in the event, for example, with our custom background image that we're going to be making for our Twitter page, let's say that you have a brand that you've established color scheme wise with all of your blogs and all of your web pages or websites, and they all have a similar color scheme. Well, this is one way in which you can match those to the letter by simply, if you do not know the hexadecimal or the RGB code of that particular color scheme, well, if you use your Firefox web browser to open up your web page or blogs in, and if you have this Colorzilla installed, then you can just click on this and then find your hexadecimal or RGB color code by just hovering over or clicking on that particular element on your web page or blog. And then you can just transfer that information over to your Photoshop, and I'll show you that here in just a second whenever you go to decide on what color scheme you want for your background image. Now, mine is pretty plain as far as the actual color of my background image. It's white. That's the background of my background image, and you can see that it blends in seamlessly with the Twitter page and the color over here that I've allotted. But this is a color that you cannot change, and that's the background color of your actual Twitter page. As you can see, I'm scrolling up here. Now, the sidebar here, you can change the color of it. You cannot, however, change, as the time of this recording, you cannot change the color of your background of your Twitter page. Hopefully that made sense. The background image behind your Twitter page, yes, you can. That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. For those of you that are not, well, yeah, one other thing too, the Measure It. You just click on that, and you can get measurements off to the side here very quickly of certain elements that you want the size of, certain images, for example. And that's how easy that is. You just click on this again, and it disengages it. Now, for those of you that do not want to or do not have the time to mess with creating your own detailed, from-scratch, custom background image for your Twitter page, head on over to twitterbacks.com, and a lot of the work's already been done for you. Matter of fact, they give you specs. If you click on here, it'll give you certain specs of the images you will need. Here are some templates, or actually, these are the finished products of the templates. These are the templates here, the bare bones, if you will. And they'll tell you where to add your photo, where to put your name. Just replace this information with your Facebook address, your email address, all kinds of cool information here if you want it. You don't have to have any of it. These are just templates that can be added to, changed, or deleted from. And they give you the PSD files here, where you can simply download these to your desktop, open them up in the GIMP, which is a Photoshop clone, only without the $700 or $800 price tag. It's free, it's open source. Or you can also open it up in your Photoshop software, and that's what we're going to be doing in this video, is working with Photoshop. And then, of course, from these templates, you can have these works of art here. Now, one thing I want to point out, though, is that up here at the top, because one thing that does not change, because if you remember as we scroll our page, right here at the top, everything above this is going to be covered with our Twitter page and sidebar right here. So you don't want to put your picture right in here. You don't want to put your name right up the top here because it can easily be covered. As you can see, these here do not have any of that in there. That's because as soon as you scroll up your page, it's going to be covered with your Twitter page here. Okay, so keep that in mind while you're doing your design. Like this guy here, that looks pretty cool, but the Captain America shield right here is going to be covered up as soon as they scroll their page up. So again, keep that thought in mind. So if we scroll on back up here, click on the specs, this gives you some more details that you can go by if you're going to be creating yours from scratch, which is what we are about to do now. Now, one of the things I want to pay attention to here are these dimensions, 2048 by 1707. So whenever I go to my Photoshop software, go up here to File, New, 2048. Well, you would have thought I've already done this. And 1707. Now the resolution, 72 is fine. You definitely don't want any more than that. You could probably get away with less than that. 8, 10, 20, 30. But 72 is fine. It'll load just as quick. And that's the main key there. And of course, the rest of this, you want to duplicate this info. You don't want to go with grayscale. Maybe you do. I don't know. But I'm going with RGB. And then click on OK. Now this comes up at 12.5%. I'm going to go ahead and make this 50% for the time being. Squeeze this out as much as possible. Now then, a lot of these guys here I'm not going to be needing right now. At least ways I won't need it for the video. But the navigator just tells you where at on the palette or work spot that I'm at. And so I don't need that guy. Color, swatches, styles, a lot of neato tools, but I don't need them for now. History might come in handy since I am prone to make a lot of mistakes. History allows me to go back and delete my last screw up so that I can kind of start fresh. Boy, if only I had that ability in real life. I'm not even going to go there. Anyway, you can also do the same thing if you hit Control Z as in zebra on your keyboard. A lot of times that'll work fine. And so I can get rid of this guy. The one thing I do want to leave on here is the layers dialog or palette, whatever you want to call it. And this way I can kind of show you as we're going along here some of the elements that we are creating and why I'm doing this and not that, if that made any sense. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and create our text. And the font doesn't really matter. I'm going to leave it with the impact for simplicity's sake. And the size of my font, that's fine and dandy. The color, I might want to change it other than white because right now that would make it kind of invisible. So it doesn't really matter at this point because I'm going to be changing that as well. So I'm going to go with red. Very easily seen. And we want to go with, now I'm not going to put the com on here. I'm going to have the com of the hotpepperpicker.com. I'm going to have that as a second element. And that way I can invert it from horizontal to vertical just as it was in the image you saw on that page. Go ahead and hit enter and then click again, and as I'm clicking I'm creating a new layer here. You can do the same thing if you were to click on the layer, the new layer button down here, but anyway, this is just how I do it. And COM, enter. Now I want to invert this COM to up and down. Now you can do the same thing by warping your text, and there's other tools and abilities to do that as well, but I'm going to go with this. Oh yeah, if you right here you can what I do is I right clicked on the text tool, and you can do the same thing here, only what this does is it has COM instead of inverting it, well, for example like this. And that's not what I want. I want this style only to the side, just as you saw it earlier. So let me get rid of this guy, delete. Okay, now we want our move tool, and with this one selected, off to the right corner here, once you get the bent arrows, left click on your mouse and then just rotate. And you can see up here, this one here, as it changes, I'm just going to highlight it when I get close to where I want. Highlight that, type in 90, enter, and we're good. Now for aesthetic reasons, I want this to be the same size, the same height as the rest of our domain name here.